What's going on, guys? BladeZilla here, and today we're taking a look at this beautiful F95NL from Blade Show Atlanta 2024, which just happened a couple weeks ago. And to be quite honest, I kind of forgot I had this, and I'm coming a little bit late to the video side of things on this particular knife, but you know what? Better late than never, because it is a super cool knife, and another unique F95NL that kind of adds to the current collection. I think it's pretty sweet, so let's talk about it today. It's probably not going to be a hugely long video because I've done, I think, 3 or 4 different videos on the F95NL already, and this being very similar to all of them other than color and a bead. So anyway, as a reminder, guys, check out BladeZilla.ca, where a lot of the knives featured on this channel are available, and you can see it right there on the screen. A nice little iPhone shout out where I just added some Ria GTRs last night, actually. So lots of good stuff, some new microtext, etc. Anyway, BladeZilla.ca. Figure it's easier to do that in the video versus doing some kind of graphic on the screen. I don't know, not really big into that stuff. So anyway, we're not here for that. We're not here to talk about BladeZilla. We're here to talk about this super cool F95 NL inlay from Blade Show. So I guess where to get started? Well, right off the hop, it's a little different than your standard F95NL, right? Gen 5, in that it has an anodized clip and an anodized backspacer and a bead to match, and it's all kind of color coordinated and looks really sharp, really good. And to be quite honest, I'm trying to recall the table price on this. It wasn't anything crazy. Like normally a show special, if it comes in like a leather slip, would be I think around $15.50, something like that, with a bead. And this time around, I think they just added $50 to the knife. Still limited to, I believe, 50 knives. I can't confirm that, but normally show knives are 50 for like CCKS, etc. And so Blade Show, I'm assuming they only did 50. But you never know. May have done more. But it's still a standard F95 NL Gen 5. So we get all the cool, slimmer blade. Everything's kind of a little bit tightened up. Real nice. It's M390, which should say on this side of the blade, if the camera focuses there. And I guess that's kind of the only drawback of it being kind of a fancy show knife or show special, is that you would expect it to be, something kind of a little different than M390, which is the standard knife, right? And that's why it's $50 more, or 100 or something like that. But let's be honest. Okay, you don't buy this knife because of M390. You buy it a lot of the times for these cool beads that are one-offs and will not be found anywhere else. And there's a lot of people that collect these beads. Let's see if I can get this on its own. A lot of people collect these just by themselves. So pretty cool to see that, and looks pretty cool. It's kind of got the same gold, yellowy ano, and then kind of that raised Shirogorov bear, and on the flip side is their pivot screw, and it is also a little different because you can actually see it's all machined and milled like their new custom division hardware. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's the horizontal lines look really cool, and you don't normally see that on their beads. So that's a new one. As far as the rest of the knife goes, so we've kind of got the Techno Carbon inlay, which is raised. So if I tilt the knife this way and we look down the knife, you'll see it's more flush, not completely flush, but more flush on the bottom end than if I hold the knife this way and I show you how it's raised off the top. So when you hold this in your hand, it just fits really nicely, and that nice little modification of that inlay very much just makes it fit that much better. So a real nice touch. And that's on both sides. So you can see it's raised on that side as well. Equal amount. Real nice. And when I saw this knife, I saw kind of the yellowy gold finish, and I was a little unsure of kind of what to expect. Like it's not quite copper, but it's certainly got some yellow to it. But it's got a nice little punch to it. It's more yellowy gold than anything, and looks actually quite nice and matches well with that back spacer and all that anodizing. Looks quite nice. As I mentioned, M390. I kind of go back to that topic, but they could have done, say, S90V. But if you look at the last few show specials they've done, if I go back to CCKS, what did they have there? The Stellar Touch, and I think they had an F95, which was also M390 for both. So, you know, maybe the narrative there is changing just a little bit. And maybe they're going, hey, you know what, we don't need to do S90V, although I've seen some F95NLs from some Russian shows in MagnaCut. So, you know, maybe I'm not crazy, but typically when you see that, either they're working with MagnaCut for the first time, which they're not, and they're using a new steel and trying it out on something easy in a low batch, and whatever, or, you know, maybe that's a sign of things to come. Not too sure. But as for the rest of the F95NL, you can see nice stonewash flats, which is beautiful because it hides a lot of the pocket rub and wear. You can see the beautiful milling up top above the pivot. Horizontal milling that's kind of got a dark stonewash kind of hidden down in it. Looks real nice. Same thing down here, underneath the handle, below the Shiro Bear. I hope you're watching this in 4K because it looks probably sharper. If it wants to focus. The milling here is just beautiful. And this is the same for all the F95NL Gen 5s in purple. What have I had a video on? I think I've done purple, copper, black. Has there been another one? Am I crazy? Oh, olive. That's the other one. Which is a very similar to this, but still a little different. This has a little more kind of metallic in it. Whereas that's a little more yellowy green, kind of, if that makes sense. The Shiro Bear on the handle looks real nice as well. There's nothing wrong with that. I love when the Shiro Bear is actually on the handle versus on the blade up here, because that's in the cutting path, and it's just not ideal in my books. I prefer it on the handle. In terms of sizing, let's grab a couple production models here. I believe I have a Stellar and a Neon within reach. I usually do. So there's a Stellar, standard titanium Stellar, and a Neon Zero. Where are you? There we go. Modified Neon Zero, obviously, but you get the point across. And remember, if I flip these around, like look, put these in your head size-wise. If I flip around, they're going to substantially change ratios just because the camera is kind of at a little bit of an angle. And I would probably say this is a little more realistic size-wise. It's a little exaggerated, but you get the idea. We go from 95 to 85 to 75 maybe, something like that. And I'll throw a tape measure on this just to confirm. But the 95 traditionally has been the 95mm blade length, which is cool. But you never know. 96, 94, 93, they're all hand ground. So things do change, but they should be damn near. So 8 5/8 overall length, with a blade length of 4 inches to the center of the choil, or 3 7/8 to the end of the grind, and 4 3/4 handle, something like that. 4 3/4, 4 7/8, something like that. But it's a full-size knife. And compared to other full-sizes, like the Shiro 4-inch blades, they just fit your hand a little bit smoother, in my opinion, because they're thinner. So when you have a 4-inch knife, they carry more like a 3.5, in my opinion. And when you put like a Neon Zero in your hand, it's a 3.5-inch knife, but it feels smaller too, because they are thinner, I should say. Not quite as thin as like a Grimsmo Rask, but they're a good size. The F95, remember, is Shirogorov's Sabenza Large, so to speak. Like, it's their absolute beauty. All-time bestseller. And rightfully so. So let's take a look on the inside here. We still have a ton of milling and skeletonization internally. And I'll grab my little light here and mess up the colors of the frame, because why not? But you can kind of see inside. Oh, let's just drop it. Let's just drop that thing. Yeah, you can see inside all the kind of like snaking work of the mill. And yeah, it's skeletonized out quite nice. And makes for a nice light titanium handle. Balance-wise, it might be thrown off because of the bead, but you are still behind the pivot. Fit-in hand, it's honestly gorgeous. You know, real nice jimping, just real comfortable, not too aggressive, nothing crazy. Assuaging on the blade. It's a nice pinch in the middle down the spine, but you still have a flat top down the middle, and then towards the end of the tip here, it kind of expands out to support that tip, which is nice. That's what she said. You know, pretty standard drop point. I always talk about how this is kind of like a fighter's jet cockpit. Like, that's all I see, is this nice little kind of cut in there. It just looks so nice. Blade's obviously got a nice stone wash to it. Really refined and subtle and smooth. And it's not, you know, it's just a nice thin blade. Real usable drop point. Hand ground as well, which is nice because you, as some people pointed out, they're all a little bit different sometimes, which is cool. The flipper tab as well has a nice cutout, or some beveling, sorry, behind where you do flip it. So when you flip it open, you know, let's see if I can kind of mute that to kind of show it without hitting myself. There we go. So you flip it down and your finger kind of rests inside that bevel, so it's not too uncomfortable or sharp, anything like that. Just a real nice design overall. I'm a size extra large hand, and as you can see, if I had a 6th finger, I'd have room, aka if you want to wear gloves and hold this, it'd make a great work knife. Probably, you know, if it was my collector's knife, I don't know if I'd probably use one of 50 as a work knife. Maybe I'd get a standard, you know, black or copper or purple or something, and use that because there's a lot more of them, and whereas something like this will probably hold its value quite well, given that it's a Blade Show edition, and just, you know, the collectors like to have them. Mainly because of the bead, but also because of the unique colors and the unique, you know, backspacer and clip, which isn't found on any other F95NL as of yet, unless that changes. But I'm guessing the configuration will be completely unique to this knife, and that'll be it, which is cool. But if you wanted to use it as a user, certainly can. You know, it's still made to be abused and used, and there's nothing wrong with that either. Tolerances wise, like look at the centering around that blade, absolutely gorgeous, nice and tight. And then on the lock bar as well, you can see underneath the clip the beautiful milling work. All those lines just look incredible. Same with on the clip, which is sometimes you don't really notice it, but when you get one in hand and the light hits it right, you'll see all the milling work all along here underneath. It's all quite micro. So beautiful. And then, as with F95s, I love how the lock bar is raised from the frame on the other side, and what I'm referring to is this right here, that bevel, which by the way is also micro milling. But if I rotate this knife, you'll see how it pops up and is actually raised from the other side, which means your thumb finds it really easily. And it's just ultra comfortable. You know, the handle itself, as you can see, is just kind of a nice rolled, comfortable handle. It doesn't have any kind of hard arcs to it, where your fingers split that spot and have to be in a certain spot, so you can kind of go all over this place with this. It is quite comfortable, as you can see. Beautiful knife. There is a metal lock bar insert / over travel stop as well. So you can see it right here, and that's to prevent or I guess it's to tune the materials between titanium handle and M390, or aluminum and S90V, etc. But in this case, titanium and M390, where you want that to wear as a softer material than either of those, so that it just lasts longer. You can replace it obviously if you want, but let's be honest, no one's going to. And then the over travel stop, as you can see, I don't know if you can see it, but it'll hang down like a root of a tooth. Let's see if my light can hit it. See it? You can kind of see it underneath that little Torx bit, but yeah, it just hangs down because when they build these guys, they put a bend, because remember, this is one piece, and they bend that frame over, and they put a little bend so that it naturally wants to push over. And if you're always locking and unlocking and locking and unlocking, if you push this past the other side, this past this, then you could pull that bend out of alignment. So they put that in there so the frame can't physically go past that. Pretty simple, very simple solution to a problem that it's common sense to not do, but you never know. Things get caught on things in your pocket, pull it out, a key's wedged under there, you never know. So it's just better to have it than not. As far as I know, there's no Easter eggs inside here that I'm aware of. But you never know if there's something hidden inside. I don't see any milling. Sorry, not milling, any Shiro logos or anything, but you never know. You open it up with the tool, and there might be something hidden inside. There's usually something. That's kind of cool, but speaking of tool, get the tool. As we can see, we've got two different bits here, 1 and 2, and on the other side, Torx. And then the clip is attached internally with another version of that, I believe. It might be smaller though because of the clip. Anyway, get the tool on a knife like this. You're in $1,200, $1,150 table, probably more on the secondary, and get the right tools. But in a pinch, you could probably use credit card folded, a penny. Penny being that it's a softer metal than the pivot hardware, and you won't mar it up. You'll damage the penny first. And to show you that, I actually have a penny back here that I used on a while ago, a hinder. And look how messed up this penny is, because it's so soft, right? And I took apart a hinder, I changed the scales, and lo and behold, it's what's damaged, not the hinder hardware, right? So I wouldn't suggest that, because you'll probably stick it in and scratch up the titanium somehow or another, but anyway, I digress. Now, as for this backspacer, what do you guys think of the color? I think it looks real good. I think it looks real sharp. Matches well with the Carbo tie. Or is it Techno Carbo? I think it's Techno Carbo. Sorry, not Carbo tie. Looks good. And I've always said, there's room for a lanyard here on this backspacer as well. And lo and behold, it comes with the paracord and this cool Shiro ball knot. I don't know what that knot's called, but they always do a good job of that. And in the forums and stuff, people are always like, oh man, like, if I could learn how to tie that knot, I'd make $1 million. Because they do such a good job of it. And I love the bear being on both the bead and the handle. That looks so sharp. Absolutely gorgeous. Flipper tab as well is nicely positioned and right kind of in the mid pivot, maybe mid forward. Detent, medium, action, silky smooth. It's on multi-row bearings. Beautifully smooth. And I can't remember on this one if it's on this side or this, but it should say MRBS, multi-row bearing system. We'll grab the light and shine it in there. If the camera picks it up, great. But it should be up there somewhere. MRBS, you see it right in front of my finger there? MRBS. So remember, there's a couple different bearing systems in the Shirogorov world if this is your first Shirogorov video. MRBS, multi-row bearing system. Below that is SRBS, or sometimes SRB they'll call it, but single row bearing system, which is a standard ball in a circle and a track. Multi-row bearings is 3 balls in a pinwheel pattern around that same circle. Then they go into roller bearings, or I guess they call them single row roller bearings, which think of them as needle bearings, kind of like the rays of a sun. And then there's double row roller bearings, which are primarily reserved for their full customs, with a few exceptions, and those are, yeah, you're going to have to remortgage or refinance your house to experience a knife like that, because they're so ridiculous and so sought after that, you know, you're essentially 10,000 plus for a knife with double row roller bearings. And when I say plus, I mean very plus, because some of those knives, geez, 50, 60, 70K. It's just crazy, with majority of them being in that 15 to 30 range, but some of them go absolutely crazy. But this guy, multi-row bearings, you know, tried and true, stands the test of time, very reliable, and nothing crazy. But I love looking at these knives with all the uniqueness, because these scales, these inlays, are like fingerprints. They're all different. So every knife is different. Some of them have way more pop of yellow, some of them are more very kind of muted. This one's a nice balance. And once again, you get milling lines throughout that look like fingerprints, funny enough. And then the light hits it and the pattern just changes entirely. And the camera won't show this, but you know, you roll the knife and it's like a hologram almost. Like, it just changes that pattern all the time. The light's refracting and bouncing around. It's gorgeous. The other nice detail is on the lock bar side, that inlay actually goes underneath the clip as well. There's no break, so that as you're kind of going in and out, you're not going to gradually peel that up. And I've always had a trouble showing because it's a real dark spot under there, but the inlay actually goes right under the clip, which is nice. And as you can see, when you're holding this knife, the clip balances onto the frame itself, so in your hand, when you're holding it, all that pressure is transferred to the frame versus the lock bar. So if you're having trouble actually opening one of these guys, you're probably putting pressure on the lock bar in some capacity. So I always say, hold a knife with your fingers on the clip, and then you'll never have any problem deploying it. But say if you're holding the knife like with your finger in front of the lock bar, or in front of the clip like that, like on the frame, it won't move, it won't budge. So you have to hold it correctly on the clip, no issues at all. So there we go. That is kind of a quick overview. I don't know if it's quick, probably 15-20 minutes, and I apologize if it went long, especially when I wanted to go short on this particular one, because I have 3 or 4 other videos up of the same knife in different configurations, but that doesn't matter. Appreciate you guys stopping by, checking out the Blade Show Atlanta 2024 Shirogorov F95NL. I know that's a mouthful. Super, super cool knife with that cool bead. M390 blade, which is just the gold standard right now, even compared to MagnaCut. And MRBS, nice milling, just a beautiful knife. One of my favorites all time. Yeah. Check out BladeZilla.ca, where a lot of the knives featured on this channel are available. And follow me on Instagram, TikTok, although TikTok's starting to get a little picky flicking knives on there. Apparently it violates community rights or something. I don't get it. But anyway, I digress. Have yourselves a fantastic week. And it's summertime now, so beautiful. Beautiful season. Hopefully it's good for you guys. Enjoy the warm weather. And visit the site, all that good stuff. And we'll talk soon. Okay? Thanks for stopping by, guys. Peace.